This is the finale of my router table build series that I've been working on. In this video, I'm going to remake the router box because the old one was too large and also did not have a door. I realized I needed a door because my router is a soft start and has variable speeds, and I need to be able to slow down the speed whenever I use larger bits. I round over all parts where fingers touch, just so that I don't get a splinter. Ouch. I recently discovered this Dado and groove method of joinery, and it's really simple and it's kind of fun to do. You just make sure your dado set is a 1/4 inch and it's a 1/4 inch away from your fence, and everything fits together really nice and easy. And with a little bit of glue, it's very strong. This staple gun actually shoots brad nails, which is what I'm using here. This is a 3-inch PVC coupling that, with a little sanding, fits perfectly on my quick connect for my 4-inch vacuum hose. And for the initial test of the vacuum, I have a piece of rag here, and the vacuum just pulled it in. Now I'm going to start working on the legs for raising the height of the router table. You can see me using a hand plane. Here I am milling down the piece of wood for the foot. After this, I actually decided to redesign how the foot mechanism was going to work. So you will see me later on adding a piece of 2x4 to add additional height. My power switch was delivered through the mail, and I decided to step away from working on the foot for a little bit and work on the power switch. I didn't want the wires to be hanging from the outside, so I decided to go ahead and cut through the wall of my table and then put the switch through that hole. However, I needed to also separate the backing a little bit so that the wires would not be pinched. So I had to take it apart, and here I am reassembling the switch. When rewiring, just be careful. The back of the switch has two notations, one for line and one for load. Load goes to the actual tool side, and line goes to the wall outlets. So just make sure you notate that correctly, and then you also put your black to black and white to white, obviously. You can see it now is attached to the router table, and I'm feeding in the cable. This is very important that I show feeding in the cable but not attaching it to the router table. Whenever I adjust the angle on my miter fence, I have to reset the distance from the blade. So I created a 14-inch jig for that, just so that I could quickly do this without having to heavily measure. Now back to working on the foot. I originally had decided some very difficult and complex methods of raising the table, and ended up deciding to use a more simple method. So with the simpler method required me to add some height to the actual foot, which you see me adding this 2x4. Now, woodworkers will constantly tell you the glue is so strong and will hold the wood so well, but we're a bunch of paranoids, so we always add screws too. So no sense in building anything unless you also overbuild it. So I'm adding some 3-inch lag screws, and now the hinges to the actual foot. You will see how this works in a moment. Off to making the doors for the router table. Here I'm milling down the rails and stiles. I'm not going to show the entire process of making the doors, partially because I forgot to hit record. Here I am routing the rails for the doors. And now for the stile ends. Notice I'm using a piece of backer board to ensure that that stile stays at 90 degrees. Gluing up is not that fun, so here is the doors, and now I have a little sliding door for, I'll show you in just a moment, some drawers, and a sliding door for the router. And I've got some shelves from an old refrigerator on the doors to hold some extra stuff. And it's done. I used a bungee cord to hold the feet in place when it's up and when it's down. And this is what I'm going to show you is I love about this new table. Is it's nice and high when I'm using it, but when I'm not using it, I can store it under my table saw, and it's out of the way and saves a bunch of space in my shop. Now let me introduce to you the latest addition to my wood shop, a decent router table, which is much better than my old one. At the time of putting this video together, I have used this table several times, and I have to admit this is probably 1,000 times better than what I was doing before. Finally, just remember, after every woodworking project, you should always count your fingers. You end with 10, good job.